Hi everyone, this is John again for another rant. I was on vacation for a couple weeks, but I'm off and I'm back, and there's a big giant debate going to happen tomorrow night, and it's supposed to be on the economy. And so I just want to remind people about some things before we get to that debate. Today is again the 9th. It's on a Monday. The debate is tomorrow. One of the things that should be discussed, and I'm hoping is discussed, is the difference in the tax plans that are being offered out there. Because in my opinion, the best tax plan is the one that does away. I agree with Carly Fiorina. It does away with this 73,000 plus tax code, which is over, by the way, 30.5 million words, 6.5 times the size of War and Peace. So obviously there's something amiss about this tax code, just a little bit, for it to be this complicated and this sophisticated. So I happen to agree with Ms. Fiorina. I, however, do not think that you can get it down to 3 pages. I don't even think you can give the director of the Internal Revenue Service ability or the authority to collect taxes in 3 pages. So I think that's maybe a little unrealistic, but I do get her point of view. She says it's not hyperbole, but I don't know. However, there are some major differences going on. First off, we've got Ms. Fiorina. She has no tax plan. So we don't know what it is or what she's going to agree to or how she's going to agree to it. We don't even know what her starting point is. And I think we're all adult enough here in the United States and smart enough to realize anybody that has a tax plan, that tax plan may change when they get into office a little bit because they have to negotiate with another party. And to get a law passed, you're going to have to negotiate. I know that's a big surprise to everybody out there, but that's what's going to have to happen. However, there are some difference in the starting points. Most of the candidates out there, Jeb Bush, Hillary Clinton, Marco Rubio, Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, Santorum, Edwards, or anybody else out there, Lindsey Graham, or Chris Christie, they all think the tax plan is fine. They think a complicated tax plan of 73,000 pages plus is a good thing. And so they just want to tinker with it a little bit. Like, Donald wants 4 income instead of 5, 4 income brackets instead of 5. He wants to change the capital gains tax a little bit. And the rest of them all do the same. Jeb Bush, Rubio, again, the other people that I mentioned, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, they all want to keep this tax code. There's only 4 candidates that want to change things substantially. And those 4 candidates are Ben Carson, wants 10% flat, 10 to 15% flat tax. He hasn't written the plan yet. He hasn't had it scored yet, but he wants a 10 to 15%. He's comfortable with that as a starting point. Rand Paul has a bill already written and sitting on the Senate floor, which of course can't get past the Senate floor because, nobody wants to pay attention to it. And it's not a big deal how we collect taxes in this country. It's, we're only 19 trillion in debt, and this has been a big giant conglomerate mess, and we got businesses leaving everywhere, and they won't bring any of their income back so that they can't repatriate it. But because they don't want to pay taxes on it. But it isn't a big deal. This isn't, as long as it's going to be a really good tax plan. So the point that I'm making is there's only 4 people that want to change the way and fundamentally change the way the United States collects taxes. And those people are Ben Carson, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, and Mike Huckabee. And the biggest differences is that Ben Carson, Rand Paul, and Ted Cruz all want to keep it on the income tax, but lower and go to a flat rate and change the corporate taxes to the same basic rate as their plan is, except for Ted Cruz, who wants the corporate rate to be 16% and the personal rate to be 10, where Rand Paul wants it at 14.5 and 14.5. But those are they want to change the income tax and make it simpler, fairer, and basically do away with almost all the deductions except for they want to keep the earned income credit, they want to keep the child credit, and they want to keep and they want to raise the personal deductions and the amount of money you get for personal deductions. Other than and the housing interest. Other than that, there'll be no other deductions. And the same for business. Business is just going to come down to a straight flat tax. That's it. Capital gains, straight flat tax. We're going to deal with everything exactly the same. Now, Huckabee, he wants to change it completely. I tend to be more for what Huckabee's plan, even though as a personal thing, I'm a Rand Paul supporter right now. I tend to be more for Huckabee's plan because Huckabee wants the fair tax. In other words, he doesn't want to tax income at all, whether it's corporate income, whether it's personal income, whether it's any sort of income. He wants a straight sales tax. Now, understand this. When people say that they're going to change it in this way, imagine if you make $1,000 a week and you don't bring home $725 anymore. You bring home the whole $1,000. How many people can raise their hand up there and think maybe that looks like a pay raise? Now, I realize you're going to pay a little more in sales tax or whatever it is you're going to pay. The bottom line is there'll be no more payroll taxes, which is great. Relieves the burden off the companies, other than they're going to have to pay their part of the matching Social Security or what have you, and they either cover that as Cruz and Paul cover it in a 14.5, or in Cruz's case, a 16% a tax that covers what the employers are paying in right now and those things. But nothing's coming out of the individual checks. So when you're listening to this thing tomorrow night, make sure, I hope that they take this into account, and I hope somebody in the business community asks a question about this, that it's not all about capital gains and the Wall Street and the stock market and the world economy. It's about the economy of the middle class. We wonder why it's never addressed for the middle class or the working people in this country, is because none of these guys ever talk about it. They're too busy talking about the millions they're making on Wall Street, which isn't coming down to you and I here on Main Street. So again, when they're talking about this, I hope they start to really point out the differences and dig into the differences, and we don't get the typical questions from news sources like Ben Carson said that he spoke to General Westmoreland. Do you believe that's true? And then Ben gets another 5 minutes. Or Donald Trump says he's going to use an alder door for the really big door in the wall versus an oak door. Would you use an oak or an alder door? And then, of course, then Donald Trump gets 10 more minutes to answer because, he got drawn into the thing. And they say they're going to be fair and everybody's going to get the exact amount of time. And you know what? I'm saying that they'll never accomplish this and that they're lying through their teeth right from the get-go. And I will guarantee you right now that Donald Trump will get more time than anybody else on any stage in either debate. I'm just throwing it out there. I know they really won't do that, but, I'm saying shenanigans. It's shenanigans. The point is that when you start to look at these tax plans, or you start to look at the economy of the United States, we have got to address this. And I hope the other thing they address is debt. Like, do you want a balanced budget amendment? Do you want term limits so you eliminate a lot of this lobbying that's going on in Congress? And I hope those come up too, because those are economic things. Those have a big, huge effect on the economy. Is term limits and the fact that and a balanced budget amendment for the United States, so we can't get ourselves into $19.2 trillion of debt. Yeah, it's a lot of money, $19.2 trillion. and that doesn't count the 144, God knows how, whatever it is. I say 144 trillion. I don't think it's that much, but there's unfunded liabilities out there that are in the trillions that are bigger than the national debt. So, again, I don't know what the exact figure is, but it's huge. And if you want to know, here's a place to go. If you want to know what everybody's plan is, rather than watch that debate, go to the taxfoundation.org. Taxfoundation.org. And they will show you everybody's tax plan and how it compares. And you can compare them individually, or you can compare them in big groups, or you can compare them in any way. My point is, if we're not going to address how we collect taxes in the United States and the way that we collect taxes, then we will continue to have the same government we have right now. Taxes are a meaningful thing, and the way we pay taxes are a meaningful thing. Let me just say one last thing. In terms of business investment, if you only have a 0% tax on businesses, how many businesses do you think want to open in the United States as opposed to maybe Egypt, India, China, the Philippines, or anywhere else in the world if we're at a 0% tax rate? And by the way, that's what Mike Huckabee's offering. How many businesses want to move to America if their tax rate is at 10 to 15%, which is what Cruz, 16%, Rand Paul, 14.5%, and Ben Carson, 10 to 15% are offering, as opposed to the 25 and 35 and 45 and myriads of deductions and compliance costs that could boggle the mind of the average human being here in this country. And when you think about that, you say, well, wait a minute, if we want businesses to open up here, boy, if they're paying 0% tax rate and we're collecting it on goods sold, quite a different deal. Or we're collecting 14.5%, but there's no basically the compliance costs are limited because it's based upon income and what you paid out in payroll. That's it. Same with Cruz, 16% on income and what you paid out in payroll. That's it. Same with Carson. So when you're looking at this, there's only 4 people out there offering these sort of plans, and everybody else wants you to continue with this sophisticated 73,000 pages of bullshit written by lawyers who have 500 definitions for the word the. And if you want to continue under that, then vote for one of the other people, because that's what they're giving you. And that's my rant for the day.